Alrighty, traders, we are back. It is Thursday, December 7, 2023. And let's jump into the markets and see what happened on the session today. So SPX had a nice up day, up 36 bucks, 0.8%. If we take a look at SPY here, see how things are going. You can see that this box that we've been in continues to just move sideways, and we just haven't broken out one way or the other in SPY, just consolidating, coiling up, getting ready for something, maybe, but we're not in a squeeze yet. But Bollinger Bands are starting to tighten up a bit here, not super tight. I think we're a couple days, if not a week or so away from potentially a squeeze on it. But if we're looking at the daily charts here, MACD just continues to slowly dwindle down. It's one of the slowest burns I've ever seen here as we just move sideways and don't do anything, just no momentum up or down. RSI had been overbought, started to dip lower, a little bit of a rebound today. Really just flat, and there's nothing here. Now, you are at new recent highs almost here, and RSI is not. So a little bit of a divergence here in RSI. I'm not going to count on anything until we start to see if we break through this and move higher on it. Then we can start to look at, is there some sort of a divergence in that? We got this gap below. We'll keep extending this gap out a ways. See if we can get down and fill that at all. But right now, this 460 level has just been, an impenetrable move since way back here in July, and we've just been bouncing on it. And one, two, almost three, and then we'll see what happens. So we keep tapping on it, and eventually maybe it will break to the upside. Momentum on the weekly still decently higher. On the Qs, a little bit of a similar story. Still in this sideways consolidation with MACD slowly dipping down. RSI had fallen more significantly. Today, decent update, decent rebound. The weekly still in an uptrend and still bullish weekly. So I think we can still go higher on the Qs. They did come down, touch the 21, and seem to be bouncing off of that. So a little bit of a bounce. And if we look at the small caps here, just sitting right in the middle of its range, not moving up, not moving back. I'm going to extend this out to about the 10th. We'll see, but these sideways, bars, we just continue to bounce in between those. But MACD giving up a little bit of steam, RSI dropping a fraction on the daily, but the weekly still strong. Are we going to continue to move higher? We hit the 3 ATR, top of the Bollinger Band, and kind of pulled back a bit. Was it enough to spring us higher? We'll see. We started to see some rotation out of the S&P and into the IWM last week, and a bit this week, but not to the extent this week that we had seen in the past. Taking a look at the number of S&P companies over their 50-day moving average, very close to 90. So we are very close to that 90% level, which has every time that we've hit it or tapped it, we have reversed pretty decently in the market. We're not there yet, so maybe we get a little bit more boost, but seems like a little bit of momentum is running out of this. So we don't have a lot, or we don't have all that many, but you're still sitting at 80% of the companies in the S&P above their 50-day moving average. That's a pretty good overall number. Put call ratio, let's look at the main chart on that, and we'll see where we are. But if we take a look at this chart, you can see the 10-day moving average on this moving all the way down to this oversold area here. We want to see oversold and starting to curve up. As this 10-day moving average moves higher, then we would see some weakness in the market. But right now it's just flat. Maybe a little bit of curve up with today. We'll see if that overall gives us something to watch. But that's been our downtrend line, and to To date so far, we have not broken. But if we break this downtrend, which means we might break this uptrend, I'm trying to keep it on the same time period here. So from the bottom here to where we are now, from this area here to where we are now, pretty good inverse relationship. So when this is overdone to the downside on the put call ratio, and it starts to move higher, then the markets typically will start to move lower. But we got to get to an overbought, oversold reading. It can bounce around in here, and the markets don't really get directional. But once we get overdone here, and we break and start to head lower here, that's when we start to get a movement one way or the other. Most of the time, and we're seeing overbought, bull move. Okay, a little bit of a pullback, bullish move. Okay, this was a long bullish move. We'll see if this one was just a little bit quicker on it, but good guide to give us a sense that I think we're closer to being overbought on S&P than we are oversold on the S&P, which is oversold on the put call ratio is bullish. Is bearish for the market. All right, so there's where we are, taking a quick look at that. Let's get back into it. We'll take a quick look at VIX today. Didn't do a whole lot of anything, sitting at 13. The dollar just continues to be weak, and a pretty good down day on the dollar, dropping 0.5% on the day today. So dollar dropping, we had rates pretty much just holding steady, didn't really do anything. Technically, it's a slight up day, 0.08 on the 10-year, but really just a sideways consolidation day. Are we getting overdone on the bond rate, on the rate sell-off, not bond sell-off? Are we getting overdone on the bond sell-off, which would mean we are getting a little bit overdone on bonds rising? We've broken the downtrend, so now pretty much all of these downtrends have been broken to an extent. So you're really in a bullish mode of higher high, higher low, higher highs, but not really much of a higher low. I'd like to see somewhat of a higher low pullback maybe on these to see if we're going to go higher. I think right now the risk reward in TLT is not there anymore. I think you're overbought on the weekly, on the daily for sure, over the 3 ATR, MACD rolling over, RSI overbought. On the weekly, we're not quite there yet, but pretty strong up weekly move. How much higher do we go? Do we go to this 50 moving average around 97 and fail, which is the 200-day on the daily and fail? But overall, things are good. I'm not predicting a crash on TLT at all. I just think the upside risk is not worth it right now. I think if you get a decent pullback, then I think you have a good risk reward set up on there. If we look at the Aussie dollar, good day today overall, just off fractionally in the after hours here. British pound, good day. With the dollar dropping, all of these moving up somewhat decently. I don't think we had a great day here on Canadian dollar. And if we look at the euro, a small up day as well. So most of the Forex had a decent day. If we look at oil on the session, kind of unchanged, up fractionally, I think up 42 cents, 47 cents for the current contract. Oil at the oversold levels right now. And if we're looking at the weekly, still in a bearish mode, MACD, RSI falling, but getting very close to oversold levels. I like it here. We actually put on a strangle today in oil, so I'll touch base on that with you guys. If we're looking at gold, after this big run up in gold, pretty good down session, like several days ago, triggering a bearish PSR reversal signal here. We have a ways to go before we reverse to bullish, and it came down. We did not fill this gap, but MACD is falling. RSI is pretty stagnant. If we look at the weekly, we've been moving, but pretty good down week this week. here. So on gold, this has been a nice pullback. Gold is doing just fine. And for us, we're in good shape. We've got 112 on gold, which is down just fractionally. It's only 7 days old, and on the move down over this week. Obviously, it's a little bit negative. And then we have two strangles, which have been up decently recently. And those strangles, one's down a fraction, one's up a fraction. So pretty much even on gold as you're consolidating here, which is perfect to see. Bonds, we already covered this, maybe starting to stall out a bit. We'll see if that is in fact the case. Getting into copper here, a pretty good down week this week in copper. So was it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, big down days with a bounce here on Thursday today. But overall, pretty hefty down week on copper. I think that puts us in a really good mood or mode, I should say, mode, whatever. I think that puts us in a good opportunity to trade copper. IV on copper is up decently. We'll take a look at the C-vol on that and see if that agrees. But I'm looking at an IVR of like 62 on copper. So we'll definitely check into that. C-vol is at 17. Relatively speaking, if we go back and take a look at the volatility there, we are low. 17 is definitely off the lows of, the recent lows, but not by a whole lot. So the recent lows here, I think, what are we sitting at? 14-ish or so, and now we're at 17. So fractionally up, but overall, copper volatility has been dropping, but it is on a little bit of an increase lately. I think with the IVR, I mean, I don't care. The C-vol it's fine. It's a good tool to keep some sense on. It doesn't dictate my trading. I think with an IV rank of 62, I think that gives you a good opportunity to potentially do something on copper. So I will be looking at copper. And then if we look at live cattle, that massive down day yesterday, followed by another down day today, did not really crack a huge new low, but it was down overall on the session today. It tried to bounce on the day, couldn't do it, and just finished right at its lows of the day, forcing me to stop out of a strangle for a loss. I mean, this has just been a nightmarish drop on cattle for whatever reason. Looking at the cattle reports, can't really figure it out. Just from a technical standpoint, this thing has been unrelenting to the downside, but it's oversold. We have a 112 on it. It's pretty close to a stop loss area, but I'm going to let that one, it's only 6 days old, and we're sitting down at 151 down here, okay, which is well below the 50 retracement on this whole up move as well. It's below support at 160, so I'm going to hang in there. If we break 160, I'm out. But until that, and it might be a little bit larger loss than I was expecting, but I'm going to hold till 160 and see if we can hold any of these support levels here. There's nothing saying we do, but we are oversold. We're nearing support. We're oversold weekly, daily. Do we get some recovery on live cattle? We'll keep an eye on that. All right, taking a look at the sectors for today. Your biggest sector today by far, semiconductors. Once again, either always leading or lagging the market. Big update today. I mean, this is a pretty big daily mover. This thing's moving sometimes, 1 to 2 points a day. So today, again, another 1.71 up day. Yesterday, about a 2-point down day. You get some pretty good moves on this, but semiconductors looking pretty strong, bouncing off to 21. XLC communications, your Metas and your Googles looking pretty good. And if we extend this previous resistance line out, we can see that we hit it, gapped above it, came down, hit it, and then bounced off of it. So this previous resistance zone is a resistance flipped to support. So let's keep an eye on XLC. Looks decent here. That this is to me, a good risk reward trade. You got MACD trying to move higher with RSI, and on the weekly and on the daily coming out of a squeeze that it's been in. So I think you could really squeeze, see higher. Your XLC would be your communications, your Metas, and your Googles. KRE moving higher, good momentum, but overbought, so nothing to do there. Biotech moving higher, overbought, nothing to do there from a risk reward standpoint. XLK, your tech stocks, just consolidating sideways, but maybe getting ready for another move higher. Would not be surprised me to see techs making a good year-end run. This is getting pretty squeeze-ific here. Bollinger Bands are really tightening up. And if we start to get these Keltner channels tightening and dropping inside of the Bollinger Bands, then I think you get a good opportunity for a squeeze on these. So getting good on tech, and then retail up 1% as well today, coming off of some overdone levels. To the downside, energy continues to be weak. I'm looking at the gold miners. And I'm tracking that not because it's a sector, but because I like this ETF here. I'm watching the pullback on gold miners. I like gold. I like gold into next year. Let's look to see what happens. We've hit a resistance level, then hit it again. Then we hit it here. We gapped up at that same resistance level, moved higher, and then we came down and we bounced off of it technically 2 days this week already. I'm not sure that the selling is done, but you're holding the 200 moving average. We bounced off of that 1, 2, 3 times now in a 2-week period. So holding the support, bouncing off the 200. MACD and RSI are falling. So I think we wait till these things start to bottom out, and getting into the gold miners is potentially a good play. Other weak sectors today, barely down, was XOU, XLV. And if we look at the Magnificent Seven, all of them up today. Apple up 1% today. Microsoft up 0.5%, a little more than 0.5%. Amazon up 1.6%. Amazon it's in a squeeze. It's just coming out of a squeeze on the weekly, and it's in a squeeze right now on the daily. So I think a break to the upside here is something you want to keep an eye out for. I think if we can break to the upside on this, potentially a bit of an ascending wedge here, a break to the upside here could bode well for a nice solid move higher on Amazon. We talked about Meta and Google and the XLC here. MACD trying to get a little bit of a reversal after this pullback. Nice pullback, bottom of the Bollinger Band, 2 ATR, 50-day moving average, all of those, and then bounced strongly today. Meta up 2.8% and Google up a whopping 5%, gapping up strongly today. Good RSI moving higher. So I think all of this is good. NVIDIA up 2%. Tesla up 1.37%. Tesla still in this gigantic wedge, and we're just waiting to see which way it goes. Right now, it's looking like potentially the upside. You've got MACD and RSI moving higher on the weekly. You got MACD moving higher barely, but and RSI moving higher on the daily. I think you could be getting ready to see Tesla make another run, maybe up to try to fill this particular gap that you have. So maybe we're shooting up here to 280 or so. We'll keep an eye on Tesla. I think there's some good stuff to be had there. All right, let's take a look at our account today, and we're going to update the account. So we'll move out of Discord here into the actual account, and we'll update it live since we didn't have a chance to really do that during the actual post session here. So we finished the day in the main trading account here. Our theta on the session was 11, very delta neutral. I mean, massively delta neutral. Love where we are, zeros on the deltas. So perfectly delta neutral. 1286 was your theta, sitting at 0.4%. Perfect theta on that. Net lick on the day, 320,399. So up a little bit on net lick, and buying power 245. 740 dropped a bit today on the session, but we did take a loss on the day today, a $5,400 loss, less than 2% of the account, but a decent day to the downside on the session here. So we're down for the month now, just slightly with this losing Strangle on LE today. So do take losses in here. Doesn't happen that frequently. There's another one back here. Losing day, and here. So we've had, since October, we've only had 3 losing days total. So this is our 3rd losing days since the beginning of October. So since September 30th. So only 3 losing days. I'll take that. Not too shabby. A decent loss today, 5,400, less than 2% of net lick. Our P&L on the year down to 39% now, just dropped under the 40. We have some stuff that are going to be coming off. We've got a ZB 112 trade that'll definitely be coming off probably tomorrow. And then we've got a few other trades that we're keeping an eye on, including a oil 112 trade that is now up $1,400, 235%. It's up, expires in 7 days. We may close it ahead of time. But this thing's up $1,400. That'll offset a chunk of that. The ZB trade is up $700-800. That'll take some of that back. Then we're also sitting on a bear trap trade, a 1111 bear trap. This kind of the old style bear traps that we do. That thing's up 50% in 4 days. We've got some January 112s. That are sitting at 92% on one of them, another one is sitting at 55%. We've also got some long-term 112s at 90%. We've coming up, so a bunch of stuff primed and ready to come off the trades here, and then we're still sitting on some nice put debit spreads and some good hedge FB 112 trades. They're actually up right now. In fact, one of them is up 1,500%. It's only $117, but it's up 1,500% because we got paid 15 cents to get into it, and it's worth $2.20 right now. So that thing is up massively, and that was T1. Tier 2 of that is up also almost 2,000%. So together, that is a 2-tier FB 112 trade that's up almost 2,000% for us, which is not a huge dollar amount. It just is great to say 2,000%. All right, so that's where we are. Still, we look at the overall for the year. We're still at 100% win rate and $47,000 in gains on the long-term 112s, and we will be closing 1 or 2 more. We're sitting just under 90% at 89% today with the loss on LE. But we're up $31,000 year over year, so that's our second best strategy. And then the 112 on futures, we're up 21,000 on a 97% win rate. And then some 0 DTE bringing up the rear on the gains at 9,000, 75% win rate, and then some losses on leap puts and spec trades. The leap puts is because we ended it early and we took some early losses on that. But overall, on the year, we're still in really, really good shape. We are up 39%. On the year, we are outpacing the market. Things are good. So we did put some new trades on today. We got into an oil Strangle that we put on. So getting back into some Strangle. We took a loss on live cattle Strangle today, but we replaced it with a new oil Strangle that's keeping us rolling. If we take a look at what we've got open here on the Strangles, you can see that we've got 2 oil, 2 ES, and 2 gold Strangles currently working. And then we can close that trade out today, $5,400 loss on this particular one, roughly at that 2x stop. It ran just a tad past it. So that's already in the mix. We've already counted on that. So there's where we are. Overall, good stuff. All right, you guys have a great evening. We'll catch you in the markets tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening. Thanks. Bye-bye.